Great day, beloved. Great day, great day. Can you believe it that we are wrapping up? We ended season 3 last week with episode 10, but just wanted to just check in with you and with the wrap up, okay? With the wrap up episode that I'm entitling Sacred Journey Complete. The blueprint of the promise, the blueprint to promise. The blueprint to promise. But before we get in, we're going to do, as always, create some sacred space, create safe space, a safe container for our time together. And you know what we're going to do. We're going to quiet ourselves. We're going to concentrate on our breathing. We're going to open up our third eye and create sacred space together. Close your eyes. Make sure that you're in a comfortable position, that you're erect. Your spine is erect so that you can easily feel your diaphragm when you breathe in, okay? And we're going to take 3 deep breaths. We're going to breathe in on the 4 count and hold it for 2 counts, and then exhale on the 6 count. We're going to breathe in all the positivity, bring in all the things that serve us and others, serve the universe. And we're going to exhale all the things that no longer serve us, those things that are negative. So much negativity going on, so much negativity. We don't know what to tune into, what to believe, what to bring into our eyesight, into our ears, our hearing, our listening, into our souls. Just so much negativity. So I'm going to make sure that we exhale all of that out. Ready? So breathe in deep, breathe in through your nose, expand your diaphragm, open up your third eye. Hold it. Breathe out slowly. Breathe it out. Let it all go. Let it go. One more deep breath in. Hold it and breathe out slowly. Open up your third eye. And with each breath, we're going to open up. We're going to see a shining light, a golden orb, getting a little bigger and brighter with every breath. Take that deep breath in, hold it, breathe out. That soothing light, that all-encompassing light, it's going to embrace you like a warm hug, knowing that you're in sacred space, knowing that this is a safe container as we spend our time together. Let's go ahead. Let's take one more deep breath, deeper than before. Breathe in, hold it. You're on sacred ground. You're in a safe container, and breathe out. Great, great. So this is our wrap-up episode for season 3, Sacred Journey Complete. The blueprint to promise. The blueprint to promise. What a sacred journey we've shared, right? From divine blueprints to promised inheritance. So let's celebrate. Let's celebrate this transformation together. Let's celebrate. Celebrate it. Celebrate it. Celebrate it with gratitude. Celebrate it with bliss. Celebrate it with joy. Celebrate it with love. Fantastic, fantastic. Episodes, as we look at our season 3 journey, episodes 1 and 2, sacred was the sacred construction foundation. We began with divine blueprints and sacred materials, learning that spiritual construction follows heavenly patterns, discovering how willing hearts provide sacred materials. Willing hearts provide the raw material. And understanding that divine work requires both inspiration and skill. Both inspiration and skill, not either or, but both. Episodes 3 and 4, we talked about the manifestation process. We witnessed vision becoming reality, vision becoming reality. Bezalel, and Aholiab, showing how divine calling meets human craftsmanship. Divine calling meets human craftsmanship. And that's how we build sacred together. That's how we become co-creators together with our divine calling. We are all called to be co-creators. We're all called to continue the creative work of the Creator, of Source, of God. We also saw how sacred assembly reveals how divine presence inhabits properly prepared spaces. We are a temple, but we have to prepare the temple to receive the presence of God. We have to prepare, just like you prepare and get all the materials, everything you need to put in place the proper craftsmen, skill, labor, all of those in order to build a building. If you want to build the building the right way or build anything. We also discovered that the transformation from construction project to living sanctuary. We all begin as a project to be built, to be developed. That's why it's important to continue to engage in personal development, continue learning, continue reading, continue to be around people that grow you if we want to be a living sanctuary. Lord, prepare me. And in episodes 5 and 6, we discovered and we talked about priesthood and authority. We explored how sacred service and spiritual authority, Aaron's calling, revealing how consciousness mediates between divine and human, right? Our consciousness, it mediates between those things that are human about us and those things that are divine about us. We talked about the sacred garments. Remember the epods and all the different things. The sacred garments showing how spiritual armor and divine authority. Spiritual armor and divine authority. So those who have the spiritual armor walk in divine authority. And we talked about the integration of spiritual responsibility with that divine empowerment. So with, Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. I'm paraphrasing, of course, right? So with this it's the integration of this spiritual responsibility with the divine empowerment, okay? You must be spiritually responsible when given this divine empowerment. In episodes 7 and 9, we talked about the wilderness formation. We navigated the challenges of spiritual development, the complaints revealing growth edges and spiritual diagnostic information. Korah's rebellion, teaching about divine order and spiritual pride. The divine guidance through cloud and fire, showing constant divine availability. God is always available. Source is always available through cloud, pillar of cloud, or pillar of fire. Divine guidance is there. And in episode 10, the promised inheritance, we reached the threshold of manifestation. The vision of abundance, confirming divine promises are substantial reality. They are substantial reality. The promise, the vision of abundance, the promise, they are a substantial reality. because what God has for us is more than we can fathom. What God promises, and not only reality in itself in the promise, but even more. It is substantial. It is more than enough. And the choice, we talked about the choice between fear-based and faith-based consciousness. Fear-based will have us looking at ourselves, right, as grasshoppers in the midst of our challenges. We can't overcome them. Yet, even though there's been a promise made to us, we hesitate and we don't move forward because we don't think that we are enough. But we're faith-based, and faith-based operates not with the crowd, but with the path least traveled. Those people who have faith to move forward, even when it seems insurmountable, are going to be few. Fear-based versus faith-based consciousness. And we also talked about the understanding that inheritance requires readiness to possess divine promises. Again, preparation. We must be ready. We must be prepared to obtain, to possess the promise. To possess the promise. We must be ready. We must be well prepared at all times. Well prepared. Okay? So, what are some of the key things? The key themes. Divine partnership was a major theme throughout season 3. We seen the beautiful partnership between divine provision and human participation. God provides the blueprint. The materials appear through willing hearts. Skilled craftsmen are called and equipped, and divine presence inhabits properly prepared space. We also talked about one of the key themes we talked about was consciousness development. Consciousness development. We are conscious creators. This is all the things that we read in the Bible and how they are really, truly applicable to our lives today is the development of our consciousness. The wilderness journey revealed how spiritual formation works through challenges that expose growth edges, divine guidance that requires trust, and preparation for greater spiritual responsibility and inheritance. One of the other major themes or threads that weaved itself through season 3 was sacred authority. We've learned about legitimate spiritual authority, how it's divinely appointed. It is divinely appointed. Remember, people rebelled and said that we're in this thing. What makes you better than us? What gives you more authority than us? Authority is divinely appointed. It serves divine purpose and requires both spiritual empowerment and human development, all working together. Again, we're talking about the continued personal development, continued growth, continued learning, continued preparation. When we have this spiritual authority, this spiritual empowerment, when we're empowered spiritually, it joins together with the human development or the personal development, the work that we have put in ourselves. It works together. And we also talked about, and a theme that ran through the season was promise and readiness. Promise and readiness. And I mentioned it and through all the other things that were major themes. Divine promises are substantial reality, but inheritance requires consciousness prepared to possess them. The gap between promise and possession is filled with spiritual formation and readiness development. Readiness development. So here's our application as we prepare for season 4 and we're going to take a couple of weeks break and come back. But I encourage you to go through and re-listen, or maybe you found an episode that you needed to catch up on that you didn't listen to. So we're going to take a couple of weeks. But here's some things. Your sacred construction. What divine blueprints are you implementing in your life? These are some things to think about as we take this hiatus for a bit. How are you participating with willing heart in spiritual construction? Where do you see divine vision becoming manifest reality? That's your sacred construction. In your spiritual authority, how are you serving as mediator between divine and human realms? Notice I said realms, because there are different realms in which we're capable of operating: the spiritual realm, the earthly realm, or the human realm. What spiritual armor and authority are you developing? Where is divine calling and human skill combining in your service? I can tell you this, promise you. If you're only serving yourself, then you're not operating. You may be just operating on human skill alone, but definitely not divine calling, because in divine calling, it is not about just even the mediation as for spiritual authority, but in your divine calling is not about selfishness. It's about selflessness. Selflessness, which doesn't mean that you think less of yourself. You just think about it less. You think about yourself less. That's all. And so that's your spiritual authority and your wilderness growth. We spent time in the wilderness, remember? What complaints have you revealed? What complaints have revealed areas needing spiritual transformation? How are you following divine guidance rather than human planning? And where do you see spiritual formation preparing you for greater inheritance? Remember that the promise is always larger than our perspective, always larger than our perspective. And then your promised land, as we've gone through this journey, as we built the foundation, as we have prepared your promised land. What divine promises are you approaching with readiness to possess? You have to be ready to possess it. What divine promises are you approaching with readiness? How are you choosing faith-based rather than fear-based consciousness? I'm telling you, faith-based is an abundance mindset. Faith-based is a abundance mindset. Okay? Fear-based keeps you in lack. Fear-based keeps you in lack. What inheritance awaits your spiritual maturity and courage? What inheritance awaits your spiritual maturity and courage? So some of these things, I hope you write them down, or just pause, write them down, go and give it some thought. Give it some thought. And so as we look ahead to season 4 will explore the conquest and settlement. The conquest and settlement. How to actually possess spiritual promises, overcome spiritual opposition, and establish divine inheritance in practical life. We'll discover strategies for spiritual conquest, establishing divine order in inherited territory, maintaining spiritual inheritance through ongoing faithfulness, and building sustainable spiritual community in promised land. So, thank you for joining me for this sacred season 3 journey. You've been part of witnessing divine blueprint become manifest reality, experiencing spiritual formation through wilderness challenges, and standing at the threshold of promised inheritance. May the wisdom gained continue to unfold in your life. May the sacred construction continue through your willing participation. May divine guidance continue to lead you toward the fulfillment of every divine promise. So until we start season 4, remember, you are always connected to Source, equipped for sacred service, and prepared for promised inheritance. So here's an invitation for you. Here is an ask, if you will. This is a community invitation. We are building community. Share your season 3 highlights with our community, or with someone that you would love to be a part of our community. What episode impacted your spiritual journey? What wisdom will you carry forward? And how are you preparing for your own promised land moments? Share those. Help us build community. I would love to, as we come back to season 4, that we have more followers, that we have more, a larger community. Okay? So remember to empower your purpose, embrace your journey, and witness the extraordinary unfold. Peace, love, and light, beloved. Peace, love, and light.